Subscribe now for more stories like this. It was a chilly autumn afternoon in Willow Creek, the kind of day when the leaves danced in the wind, painting the ground in hues of orange and gold. Emma and her friend Sophie were walking along the edge of the shimmering lake, their breath visible in the crisp air. "Did you hear about the strange noises coming from Mr. Thompson's house?" Emma asked, her eyes sparkling with curiosity. Sophie nodded, a hint of excitement in her voice. "I did. People say it's haunted. We should investigate." Emma grinned, her heart racing at the thought of a mystery to solve. "Let's do it. We can go after school." Later that evening, the two friends gathered their supplies. They packed a flashlight, a notebook, and a camera, everything they might need for their adventure. They agreed to meet at the old oak tree by the lake just before sunset. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of purple and pink, Emma and Sophie set off toward Mr. Thompson's house. The path was dimly lit by the moonlight, and the air felt electric with anticipation. When they arrived, the old house stood eerily quiet, its windows covered in grime and its paint peeling away like the layers of time. The door creaked ominously as they pushed it open. Inside, the air was stale and filled with the scent of dust and memories. "Where do we start?" Sophie whispered, her voice trembling slightly. Emma turned on the flashlight, illuminating the dark corners of the room. "Let's check the basement. That's where the noises were heard." As they descended the narrow stairs, the wooden steps groaned under their weight, almost as if protesting their intrusion. At the bottom, they found a dimly lit space filled with old furniture and forgotten relics. Cobwebs clung to the corners like wisps of lost dreams. In the corner, a large chest caught Emma's eye, its surface marred by scratches and time. "Look at that!" she exclaimed, rushing over. Sophie followed closely behind, her heart racing. They opened the chest and found a collection of old letters, photographs, and various trinkets, each item a piece of someone's past. Among the letters, one stood out. It was yellowed with age and addressed to a woman named Clara. As Emma carefully unfolded the letter, it spoke of a hidden treasure near the lake, left behind by Clara's family many years ago. Could this be what the noises were about? Sophie asked, her eyes wide with wonder. Emma nodded, excitement bubbling inside her. "We have to find out where this treasure is hidden." They spent the next hour piecing together clues from the letters. One letter mentioned an old willow tree by the lake, marking it as a significant landmark. "This has to be it," Emma exclaimed, her voice echoing in the stillness. The girls raced outside, their hearts pounding with excitement. They arrived at the willow tree, its long, sweeping branches swaying gently in the night breeze, creating an enchanting scene. Emma knelt down, scanning the ground for any signs of a hidden treasure. "Look." Sophie pointed to a small, weathered stone half buried in the earth. They dug around it, and soon unearthed a small, rusted box. With trembling hands, Emma opened the box. Inside were old coins, a few pieces of jewelry, and a beautiful locket containing a faded picture of Clara. They couldn't believe their discovery. "Do you think we should take it to Detective Harris?" Sophie suggested. Her mind racing with possibilities, Emma thought for a moment, glancing at the precious items. Yes, but we should also tell Mr. Thompson. This was his family's treasure. The next day, the girls approached Mr. Thompson's house. He was known to be a reclusive figure in the village, often seen but rarely engaged in conversation. They found him sitting on his porch, gazing at the lake with a distant look in his eyes. With a deep breath, Emma walked up to him, her heart pounding in her chest. "Mr. Thompson, we found something that belongs to your family," she said, holding out the rusted box. His eyes widened in shock as he examined the contents. "Where did you find this?" he asked, his voice filled with emotion. "In the basement," Emma replied, her voice steady despite her nervousness. "We discovered letters that led us to the willow tree." Mr. Thompson's face softened, the weight of the past visible in his expression. "Thank you, girls. This treasure has been missing for decades. Clara was my grandmother." Emma and Sophie exchanged glances, their hearts swelling with pride. They had not only solved a mystery but also helped reconnect a family with its history. Over the next few weeks, Mr. Thompson shared stories of Clara and her family with Emma and Sophie. They learned about the joys and sorrows that had shaped their village and the legacy Clara had left behind. Mr. Thompson often invited the girls over, and they would sit on the porch, sipping hot cocoa and listening to tales of love, loss, and the adventures of yesteryear. One afternoon, as they sat together, Mr. Thompson pulled out an old photo album. "This belonged to Clara," he said, flipping through the pages filled with sepia-toned memories. Each picture captured moments of joy: Clara as a young girl, playing by the lake; Clara's wedding day, surrounded by friends and family; and finally, Clara as a grandmother, laughing with her grandchildren. As the evening drew to a close, Emma smiled at Sophie, her heart full. "I can't believe how much has changed in just a few weeks. I never expected our little adventure to bring everyone together like this." Sophie grinned back, her eyes shining. "Me too. Who knows what other secrets Willow Creek holds? We should keep exploring." With that, the two friends felt the thrill of mystery still lingering in the air, ready for whatever lay ahead. As they walked home that night, hand in hand, they knew that their bond of friendship had deepened, and together, they would continue to uncover the stories waiting to be told in their beloved village. As the weeks passed after the gathering at the lake, Emma and Sophie found themselves reflecting on their adventure. The thrill of discovering the treasure had ignited a passion for mystery and history within them. They often visited Mr. Thompson, who would share more stories about Clara and the village's past. One rainy afternoon, while they were at Mr. Thompson's house, Emma noticed a dusty old map hanging on the wall. "What's that?" she asked, pointing. Mr. Thompson's eyes lit up. "Ah, that's an old map of Willow Creek. It shows the village as it was 100 years ago. There are places marked on it that have since disappeared or changed." Sophie leaned in closer, intrigued. "Do you think there are more treasures hidden around here?" Mr. Thompson chuckled. "Perhaps. Clara used to say that every corner of this village holds a story. If you're interested, I could teach you how to read the map." Excitement bubbled between the girls. "Yes, please," Emma said eagerly. Over the next few weeks, Mr. Thompson taught them about the landmarks on the map, how to identify old trails, and the significance of various locations. One particular spot caught their attention, a place marked as the Forgotten Well. "What do you think is down there?" Sophie asked one afternoon as they pored over the map. Mr. Thompson looked thoughtful. It was rumored that the well was once a source of fresh water for the village. Some say it was also a meeting place for the townsfolk, where secrets were exchanged and stories told. There might be artifacts or old items left behind. Emma's curiosity was piqued. "We have to check it out." The following weekend, armed with their flashlights and the map, Emma and Sophie set out to find the Forgotten Well. The journey took them through parts of the woods they had never explored, filled with the sounds of rustling leaves and distant bird calls. After what felt like hours of searching, they finally stumbled upon a clearing. In the center stood a crumbling stone structure overgrown with vines and moss, the well. "It looks so old," Sophie whispered, awed by the sight. The stones were weathered, and the surrounding area was filled with wildflowers, giving it an almost magical feel. They approached cautiously, peering over the edge. The darkness below was daunting. "What if we find something amazing?" Emma said, her eyes gleaming. "Or something spooky?" Sophie replied with a laugh, trying to lighten the mood. They decided to work together to lower a flashlight into the well. As the light illuminated the interior, they could see the rough stone walls, damp with moisture, and some objects glinting faintly at the bottom. "I think I see something," Emma exclaimed, excitement bubbling in her chest. "Let's get a rope and see if we can pull it up." They quickly fashioned a makeshift harness with a sturdy rope they had brought along. After carefully securing the flashlight, Emma began to lower it deeper into the well. The light flickered as it descended, revealing more glimmers of metal and old wood. Suddenly, Sophie gasped. "Wait! Do you see that?" She pointed to a shadow that flitted across the wall. "What if there's something down there?" Emma took a deep breath, steadying her nerves. "We have to find out. Let's pull up what we can see first." They tugged on the rope, pulling up an old wooden crate, its edges frayed and covered in dirt. With some effort, they managed to lift it out and set it on the ground beside the well. The crate was heavy and locked tight. "What do you think is inside?" Sophie asked, her eyes wide with anticipation. "Let's find out," Emma replied, pulling out her flashlight to inspect the crate. She noticed a small keyhole. "If only we had a key." Just then, a thought struck her. Mr. Thompson. He might know about this. Without wasting a moment, they hurried back to his house, the crate clumsily carried between them. When they arrived, they found Mr. Thompson on his porch, enjoying the afternoon sun. "What brings you two here so quickly?" he asked, noticing their excitement. "We found the Forgotten Well," Emma exclaimed, panting slightly. "And look what we pulled up." They revealed the crate, placing it gently at Mr. Thompson's feet. His eyes widened as he examined it. "I haven't seen one of these in years. This belonged to the village's first blacksmith. I remember my father talking about him." "But it's locked," Sophie said, frowning. "Do you have a key?" Mr. Thompson stroked his chin thoughtfully. "I might have an old key that could fit. It was said to be hidden somewhere in the village, perhaps near the blacksmith's old forge." "Let's go find it," Emma said, her excitement renewed. The next day, the trio set off to locate the blacksmith's forge, guided by Mr. Thompson's memories. They hiked through the village, finally arriving at the site, now just a crumbling stone structure covered in overgrown grass. "This is it," Mr. Thompson said, his voice filled with nostalgia. "It's been abandoned for decades." They began searching through the remnants of the forge, looking for any sign of the key. As they sifted through rusted tools and broken bricks, Sophie spotted something shiny partially buried in the dirt. "Over here!" she shouted, digging it out. Emma and Mr. Thompson rushed over, and soon they uncovered an old, ornate key, tarnished but still beautiful. "This must be it," Emma exclaimed, holding it up triumphantly. With the key in hand, they hurried back to Mr. Thompson's house. Their hearts raced as they gathered around the crate once more. Mr. Thompson carefully inserted the key into the lock, turning it slowly. With a satisfying click, the lock released, and he lifted the lid. Inside the crate, they found various tools, intricate metalwork, and an old ledger filled with the blacksmith's notes and sketches. "These are extraordinary," Mr. Thompson said, examining the items. "They tell the story of the village's craftsmanship." Among the contents, they discovered a small pouch containing coins and a letter from the blacksmith himself, detailing his dreams for the village and his hope that his work would inspire future generations. Emma and Sophie exchanged glances, feeling a profound connection to the past. "This is incredible," Sophie whispered, holding the letter. "We need to share this with everyone in the village." That evening, they organized a small gathering at Mr. Thompson's house to reveal their findings. As the villagers gathered, Emma and Sophie took turns telling the story of their adventure, showing off the contents of the crate and reading the blacksmith's letter aloud. The atmosphere was filled with wonder as the villagers listened, captivated by the tales of their shared history. Mr. Thompson spoke of the blacksmith's dreams and how they had laid the foundation for Willow Creek. As the night went on, laughter and conversation filled the air. Emma and Sophie felt a warm sense of fulfillment, knowing they had helped uncover a piece of their village's legacy. As the stars twinkled above, they realized that their adventures had only just begun. "I can't wait to see what else we might discover," Emma said, gazing at the night sky. Sophie nodded, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "There are so many stories waiting to be told, and we'll find them together." And so, as the village of Willow Creek thrived with renewed energy and camaraderie, Emma and Sophie continued their journey, eager to uncover the mysteries that lay hidden, ready to breathe life into the stories of the past. As the weeks rolled on, the excitement from the discovery of the blacksmith's crate lingered in the air, filling the village with a renewed sense of purpose. Emma and Sophie found themselves at the center of this newfound energy, becoming unofficial historians of Willow Creek. They spent their afternoons exploring the village, gathering stories from the elders, and even visiting the local library to research the history of their community. One sunny Saturday, while they were rummaging through old books, Emma stumbled across a reference to an abandoned cemetery on the outskirts of the woods. "Sophie, look at this," she exclaimed, her finger tracing the faded words. "It says there's an old cemetery where many of the village's founders were buried. It might be another place with stories to uncover." Sophie leaned in, her excitement infectious. "We have to check it out. Who knows what we might find there?" After gathering some supplies, flashlights, notebooks, and a picnic basket filled with snacks, they set off toward the cemetery. The path wound through the woods, the sunlight filtering through the leaves, casting playful shadows on the ground. As they approached the cemetery, an eerie silence enveloped them, broken only by the crunch of leaves beneath their feet. The entrance was marked by a weathered iron gate, creaking ominously as they pushed it open. Inside, the cemetery was overgrown with wildflowers and tall grass, giving it an air of forgotten beauty. Old gravestones, some cracked and leaning, stood like sentinels, telling silent stories of the past. "Where do we start?" Sophie asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Emma scanned the area, her eyes landing on a particularly large gravestone in the center. "Let's check that one out first. It looks important." As they approached, they could see intricate carvings on the stone, depicting symbols of love and hope. The name etched into the surface read Evelyn Hartwood, along with the years of her birth and death. Beneath her name was a quote, "Forever in our hearts." Emma knelt down to get a closer look. I wonder who she was. There must be more to her story. Suddenly, Sophie noticed something glinting at the base of the gravestone. "What's that?" she asked, pointing. Emma leaned closer and carefully brushed away the dirt. It was a small, metal box, similar to the one they had found at the well. "Can you believe this?" she said, her voice a mix of excitement and disbelief. "What do you think is inside?" They exchanged eager glances and decided to take the box back to Mr. Thompson. They carefully dug it out and headed back to the village, their hearts racing with anticipation. Once at Mr. Thompson's house, they laid the box on the table. "You won't believe what we found," Emma said, unable to contain her excitement. Mr. Thompson's eyes widened as he examined the box. Evelyn Hartwood was a remarkable woman. She was known for her kindness and dedication to the village. If she left something behind, it must be significant. With a deep breath, Mr. Thompson opened the box, revealing a collection of letters tied together with a faded ribbon. The letters were addressed to various villagers, each one filled with words of encouragement, wisdom, and tales of her life. As they read through the letters, they learned about Evelyn's dreams for the village, her love for the community, and her commitment to helping those in need. One letter, in particular, struck a chord with Emma. It spoke of a hidden garden she had planted, meant to be a sanctuary for the villagers, a place of peace and reflection. "Do you think the garden still exists?" Sophie asked, her eyes bright with possibility. Mr. Thompson nodded thoughtfully. "It's possible. If we can find it, it could be a beautiful place to honor Evelyn's legacy." With a new goal in mind, Emma, Sophie, and Mr. Thompson set out to locate the hidden garden. Using the clues from Evelyn's letters, they explored various spots around the village. The trio trekked through thickets, over streams, and into patches of dense forest, searching for signs of the garden. After a few hours of wandering, they found themselves at the edge of a small clearing. A hint of color caught Emma's eye. "Look over there," she exclaimed, pointing to a cluster of vibrant wildflowers. As they approached, they were met with the sight of an old stone wall, partially covered in ivy. "This has to be it," Emma said, her heart racing. They pushed through the overgrown foliage, revealing an enchanting garden hidden behind the wall. The garden was a riot of colors, flowers of every hue bloomed in abundance, and a small stone bench sat beneath a massive oak tree, providing shade. It was clear that this place had been lovingly tended to, even if it had been abandoned for years. "This is beautiful," Sophie breathed, taking in the scene. They spent the afternoon cleaning up the garden, removing weeds and debris. As they worked, they imagined how Evelyn had once tended to this sanctuary, creating a haven for the villagers. With each flower they uncovered, they felt a deeper connection to the past. Once the garden was cleared, they decided to hold a community gathering to celebrate Evelyn's legacy and the hidden beauty they had discovered. They invited the villagers, sharing the story of Evelyn Hartwood and the significance of the garden. The day of the gathering arrived, and the village buzzed with excitement. Families brought picnic baskets, children played among the flowers, and laughter filled the air. Emma and Sophie led a tour of the garden, recounting the letters and Evelyn's dreams for the village. As the sun began to set, casting a warm glow over the gathering, Mr. Thompson stood up to speak. "Today, we honor Evelyn Hartwood, a woman whose love for this community has transcended time. This garden is a testament to her spirit, a reminder of the importance of kindness and connection." The villagers cheered, and as the celebration continued, Emma and Sophie felt a profound sense of accomplishment. They had not only uncovered treasures from the past but had also created a space for the community to come together. As the stars twinkled overhead, Emma turned to Sophie. "Can you believe all that we've discovered? It's amazing how much history is waiting to be uncovered." Sophie smiled, her eyes sparkling. "And there's still so much more out there. Who knows what other stories are hidden in Willow Creek?" With that, the girls knew their adventures were far from over. They had opened a door to the past, and together, they were determined to keep exploring, sharing the stories of Willow Creek and ensuring that its history would never be forgotten. The mysteries of their village awaited them, and they couldn't wait to discover what lay ahead.